Cooked foods are making you cooked, and in this YouTube video I'll speak about why that is and how cooked foods are actually making you cooked, not just internally with your internal health, but also your external appearance, making you less physically attractive if you're eating lots of cooked food. And then how it actually works in nature with animals and humans that lives accordingly to nature, how they get affected by raw and by cooked foods. And then I'll also speak about my own experience, and then in the end I'll give you a simple guide on how you can introduce more raw foods into your diet without going too extreme, so you can actually sustain a raw food diet. Let's start off by looking at this simple observation right here. We have a cooked steak on my left side, and then we have a raw steak right here on the right side. And forget everything that you've been told, just use your eyes right now. Look at the cooked steak and then look at the raw steak right here. Which one would you actually choose with your intuition if you were in nature and if you didn't have this programming that you have right now that raw foods is dangerous and it doesn't taste good at all? Which one would you choose just by looking at these two steaks right here? I would choose this raw colorful steak, and I know that most of you guys would actually choose this raw steak right here just by looking at the difference right here. I don't think many of you guys would choose this dry and dark and gray steak right here if it weren't for this programming that you have right now. And there's actually no animals in nature that cooks their food. And this is also a very simple observation. There is no other species in nature that cooks their food. There's no wolves, there's no lions that grill, that have barbecues. Like, it's just raw foods. And I personally believe raw foods is the way to go. And when you live accordingly to nature, as every single animal actually does in nature, you will be happy, you will be healthy, you will be strong, you will have a fulfilling life. And at the end of the day, we're also animals. But we think that we're above animals, we're too smart for animals, and we shouldn't live accordingly to nature. But what actually happens when animals eat cooked food? Well, first of all, you can look at your pets. You can look at, if you have a dog or cat at home, I can probably guarantee you that you've been to the vet with your dog just because the dog or the cat had some health issues, because you're feeding it bullshit. You're feeding it processed dog food or processed cat food that is cooked. Obviously, they will have health issues. And second of all, we can look at Dr. Francis Pottenger that ran a 10-year study on 900 cats. One group of cats that ate raw meat and raw foods. The other group ate cooked foods like cooked meat and pasteurized dairy. Everything else was identical. It was the same source of food, same quality. One was just raw and one was cooked. And the raw-fed cats, they were staying healthy across generations. They had strong bones, they had perfect teeth, no infections, no infertility. They were perfectly healthy across all generations. But the cooked meat group, on the other hand, had, by the second generations, skeletal deformities, crooked teeth, and chronic infections. They had very poor health just by the second generation, by still eating animal foods, but it was cooked. They had health issues. They started to become infertile by the third generation. They were completely infertile, in fact, by the third generation, and they could no longer reproduce. So by the third generation, they had to mix up these two cat groups right here, so the cooked group could actually survive, because they were infertile. And this is all meanwhile the raw group was completely fine, thriving, very quick and strong in nature. They were living a fulfilling, healthy life with no actual infertility or health issues overall. So this just goes to show that animals shouldn't eat cooked foods, and we are animals. And what's actually very interesting is that Weston A found the exact same patterns in human beings. He traveled the world in 1930s studying traditional populations, traditional tribes, like the Maasai group, for example, or the Samburu, or the Inuit, for example. These all ate raw foods. The Native Americans ate raw foods as well. And in the beginning, they were eating raw animal products such as raw milk, raw blood, raw organs, raw meat, and they had perfect health. Wide jaws, strong bone structure, zero chronic disease, zero depressions, perfectly healthy, exactly how humans are supposed to be. But by the second generation, after they adopted modern cooked food And it was no difference. It was still animal products, but it was cooked. They started to develop narrow faces, crooked teeth, health issues, diseases, physical degeneration basically. And this is all within one generation of just eating, you know, still living in nature, but eating cooked foods. And, you know, today we're mostly eating cooked foods. Like, I don't actually see anyone in today's society that are eating raw foods just like randomly in society. I just see people that are eating cooked foods, and especially even worse, processed foods like McDonald's, like candy, like hamburgers. Imagine what that does to you if in nature they even get health issues from eating natural foods. Meanwhile, it's cooked. No, this is not just genetics, this is actual biology. This is how it works in nature when you go against nature. I fully believe that when you live accordingly to nature, you should have perfect health. I believe that God made us to live in nature, to have perfect health. But when we are in the middle somewhere and we try to adjust something, or we try to change nature or how God intended us to live, then we will have health issues, and this is a clear example of that. A very important thing is also the chewing part. We're not actually chewing strong and hard foods anymore. We're just like eating soft foods. We're not using our muscles in our face to develop, to get stronger, to get this more masculine look. We're just eating soft foods, and if you're eating soft foods, you won't actually use your muscles anymore. And when you don't use your muscles anymore, they will shrink because you don't have any use of them anymore. It's the exact same thing as if you were going to the gym and then you suddenly stopped working out. Yeah, your muscles will shrink. The exact same thing happens here. So when you cook food, your food will get soft. And me, for example, when I eat raw steak, I can sit and chew and chew and chew for like 1 hour straight, and I get this massive pump in my jaw muscles just because I actually use my muscles. And you can see in my face that when I started to introduce more raw foods that were tougher, I started to get better bone structure and my jaw became more defined. So let's look at what heating actually does to food. So first of all, heating actually destroys nutrients. It destroys 55 to 89% of vitamin B6, between 73 and 100% of thiamine, vitamin B1, and vitamin C as well. It also kills enzymes, which means that your body and your gut has to produce more enzymes so it can break it down. Meanwhile, if you're eating raw steak, for example, it already have active enzymes that is pre-digesting the meat for you. So personally, when I eat a cooked steak, it sits in my gut for way longer. It feels like it's a rock in my gut. Meanwhile, if I eat a raw steak, I just feel satiated and I feel very light. So this is a very good example as well, that you can try it yourself. That's the best thing with all this. You can try yourself and see how you feel and see if this is actually true or not. Third of all, it oxidizes fat and becomes rancid. So these are all things that are actually scientifically proven. This is not just I'm yapping about or something that I'm making up right here. I can actually link all the studies down below if you're interested in looking at the studies. And cooking doesn't just remove nutrients, it actually creates 32 toxic compounds that will get formed when you cook food basically. And most of these 32 compounds are carcinogenic, which means that they've been directly linked to cancer in people. These 32 toxic compounds will get formed when you cook the food. So if you eat it raw, you don't actually get these toxic compounds. And I'm not gonna get into the specifics in this video, but something that we're also being told all the time is that bacteria is dangerous. You can't eat raw foods because you will get sick, you will get parasites. But first of all, I know that you've been eating raw foods before. You've been eating sushi, you've been eating beef tartare, you've been eating raw cheese, you've been eating mayonnaise that is raw egg yolks. You know, you've been eating raw foods, but just because it's served in restaurants, you don't really believe that you can make it yourself at home. And bacteria isn't actually dangerous. It's something very beneficial because our bodies are made of bacteria. So that's why they're trying to push antibacteria, and that you need to clean your hand, you need to use soap all the time, you need to sterilize your food because bacteria is so harmful for you. But this is not true at all. Salmonella, for example, that people say come from raw chicken or raw eggs, for example, is actually a biological janitor that breaks down dead and toxic tissues in your body that your body cannot actually handle itself. So that's why we have these cleanup groups in our bodies, that is bacteria, that is parasites. So when you have toxicity from this modern lifestyle, yes, you will have salmonella active in your body. Let's say a person gets fever or diarrhea and goes to the hospital, and the doctors can see that salmonella is present in their bodies. They blame salmonella for this symptom that they had. But in reality, it's the toxicity in the first place that salmonella tries to detox. And it's the same thing as trying to blame firefighters for the fire that they're trying to put out. You know, it doesn't make sense. Same thing is here. They didn't cause the toxicity in the body, they caused the symptom trying to push out the toxins. So the root cause will be toxins in your body, and bacteria and parasites will be your friend. And if you guys want a full breakdown of me actually debunking parasites and bacteria thing, I can do that. And me personally, I've been eating raw foods for 1.5 years, and the only thing I've seen with my health is just health improvements. I've never been sick, I've never been to the hospital by eating raw foods. You know, isn't that enough evidence for you guys? So let's get into why you actually want to introduce more raw foods. Well, in the first place, you have more nutrients, you have more bacteria, you have more beneficial enzymes, all these things that will help you to heal your body from the inside out, to get rid of toxicity so that you can actually detoxify properly, so that you can get rid of poor gut health that leads to acne, so you can get rid of hair loss, so that you can get better bone structure, so that you can get healthier, you can get rid of diseases. You want to try to align with nature as much as possible. So that's exactly why you want to start eating raw foods. And how you can introduce more raw foods without going too extreme. First of all, start small and let your body adapt. And a key principle to introducing more raw foods is always buy your foods from good sources, such as farmers with pasture-raised eggs, grass-fed animals. Obviously don't eat mass-produced animals, because if you eat sick animals, you will also get sick. You will get passed on the toxicity from those animals. So always make sure that your stuff is quality. Go call up your farmer, speak about the quality. Are they pasture-raised? Do they live outside in nature? If yes, then yeah, it's perfectly fine to eat those foods. And something you can actually start to introduce now is raw egg shake, for example. This is something very easy and something that I consume during the summer, because it's fruit, and fruit should only be consumed during summer when you're sweating and you're getting a lot of sunlight. So here you can blend about 5 eggs, pasture-raised eggs, with fruit of choice. So I'm doing mango right now, for example. It's perfectly fine. You can add some coconut oil or coconut butter, blend that. It's really good. Second of all, you can do raw milk plus raw eggs with a little bit of raw honey as well. Put that in a blender, blend that up, super tasty. You can do beef tartare, where you chop up some grass-fed organic beef, add some onions, add some avocado, for example, add some raw butter, maybe some egg yolks, some Celtic sea salt, blend that up. It's gonna taste super good. And then you can do ceviche, so raw wild-caught tuna with some lemon, with some avocado, some Celtic sea salt. You can blend that up. It tastes very good, very hydrating. You can do raw oysters with lemon, for example. You can buy this, but you can also get this in restaurants. Super healthy. That's a very good superfood. Then you can also eat raw unpasteurized cheese with raw honey. This is a very good combo. I usually eat this like a dessert, and then raw cheese and then raw butter with your meals, because you need to get satiated so you don't crave carbs. Therefore, you should have a high fat intake. That also helps you with detoxification. Those are some simple foods that you can introduce today, and that actually tastes very good. So you don't actually have to just take a steak and just rip it open and just eat it. You can make it sustainable. You can make it enjoyable as well. With these recipes right here. And if you have any questions around these recipes, just shoot me a DM on Instagram and I'll help you. But this is it for this video. If you're eating raw foods, if you're switching to raw foods, you will have the benefits that I got from eating raw foods, and a lot of my clients and a lot of my friends are getting from eating raw foods. And yeah, anything you put on fire will die, it will get destroyed. If you put your hand on the stove, you will get burnt. You know, it's the same thing with steak. Why would you get anything beneficial from putting anything on fire and eating it? It doesn't make sense. It will weaken your stomach, it will worsen your development, and the raw animal foods will have all the benefits that you need for your health. So you don't have to eat everything raw. You know, me myself, I eat some cooked foods here and there and I don't stress over it, but you should actually prioritize to introduce raw foods now if you're actually serious about fixing your health and getting optimal health from here. So your ancestors knew this, traditional cultures knew this. This is why your grandfather looks way more masculine than you when he was your same age, just because he was eating raw foods or natural foods. He was more aligned with nature, and modern science is denying this, trying to push these toxic foods and medicines onto you. But be smarter than that. You can deny it. Also have a school community that will get launched in about 3 weeks, and I also offer one-on-one coaching for the people that are serious about fixing their health issues and they want to get someone that actually keeps them accountable and gets them on the right path. Then DM me on Instagram, the link will be down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.